Ride or die. Alright guys, welcome to this exclusive video. Me having a conversation with Dan Barker, who works for the Freedom from Religion Foundation. This one we get a little bit on humanism and then we talk about abortion. Now this is an exclusive membership video. So anybody who signed up for 99 cents, you are the ones who get exclusive access to this. And I appreciate it. I also tried to make it only one membership level. That way it's very cheap, very affordable. And I do appreciate the support and you guys helping me do these videos or helping my ministry and the conversations. Not my values, but my religious beliefs on someone else, like that would make it compulsory for you, but no one tells anybody not to actually vote their values, though.
Yeah, and of course, atheists have values too. I mean, we're all values voters. We all care about what we care about, and even those members of ours, the few of them who would be anti-abortion, would be opposed to the government forcing the issue. They think, and I know a lot of Christian friends who think that we should use the powers of persuasion and the power of love and human communication and not the force of government. Because if you need the force of government, it means you're failing. Even Benjamin Franklin said that. If a religion can take care of itself, that's fine. But as soon as the religion needs the help of public tax dollars, they're admitting, well, our God's not big enough to meet our needs. And so I have some good friends who are even conservative Christians, but we agree that our discussion should be in the private sphere, not in the governmental public sphere.
Yeah, well, me as a Christian, I'm definitely against abortion, but I also understand too, in outlawing abortion, there's a lot of things that have to change, like foster care system has to get addressed, sex education, easy access to like contraceptive, um, helping poor income communities because that's where a lot of the abortion clinics are. So it's like it's necessarily when you say end them that that's the only thing on the table. There's other things that we have to do.
So you're one of the good guys, I guess. But notice what you said. Me as a Christian, I'm definitely opposed to abortion. I know a lot of Christians who are pro-abortion. A lot of good Bible-believing, church-going, praying, wonderful people who think abortion is a blessing. They're Christians and they think it's a good thing for the world. So it's not necessary that if you are a Christian, you must be anti-abortion.
Yeah, I think that there are some in the church who disagree. I think overwhelmingly, I think it is a Christian position, but I do know Christians who are pro-choice. It's not like they're kicked out of the fold, but it just comes down to like when I talk to secular humanists or just people who call themselves atheists, that what are we how are we valuing human life and at what stage of development is it okay to end human life? And if you say like a human in a lower stage of development, well, where does that line start edging out? Because we have people who are in like hospital beds, we have people who are in car accidents who are now mentally disabled, and all this fluctuation on what it means to be a person seems to be a part of the problem.
Yeah, but at least those people are born. They have a birth certificate. They're living on their own. They're not half baked, But yeah, and Christians disagree with each other too. And there's all these different religious philosophies about where, not so much where does life begin, but where does personhood begin? And because most abortions happen when the fetus is smaller than the tip of your little finger, and it's not, you wouldn't call that a person. You would call that a developing potential. But and so even Christians would say, well, yeah, first trimester, that's not really a person.
So there,
And in fact, most miscarriages happen in the first trimester. So
yeah. So there's two
um,
questions I usually ask, like when I'm talking to somebody who's pro-choice, just to kind of stimulate their thought process. I ask, "Are you okay with a woman having an abortion for any reason?" So, what would your answer be to that one? Then I'll give you the second question.
Well, I would say I'm okay with a woman making her own decision about that. And it's not up to me, especially not up to you or me as men, to make that decision for her. And
So, would
I
that be
acknowledge,
like
as
a
everybody else
yes
does.
that whatever reason that they deem you're okay with?
Yeah, although I might morally say something about it. I mean, if it was, I might feel uncomfortable. I might say something, but it's still her choice, and I might, if it's really, really late, even then. I mean, so that's so few abortions happen that late usually for extreme health reasons. But
So,
I would say basically yes, unless the woman is. I mean, this never happens. I don't think this ever happens, but it's possible that some wild woman say, "I just want to get pregnant and have abortion because I just want to." I mean, I would probably criticize that. I would say that's irresponsible. That's
so
not good.
the
But I would still say it's her choice.
so the second question is tied to where there's some moral issue with it, which is you have now where people have abortions based on gender, and they have abortion based on if the child has Down syndrome. What if they were able to detect whether or not the child is gay? Would you still be okay with the mom having an abortion?
Well, regardless of what I am personally comfortable with or not, and we all disagree, I think, on that. I don't think our government should be forcing the issue and denying the right to abortion on a woman. I don't think so. And that's the issue there. And obviously, we're going to have debates about where you draw the line. That's always going to be there. So there's even a few people. I'm not one of them, but there's a few people who think infanticide's even allowable in some certain cases. And so, that makes me uncomfortable. But I might even criticize the person. But it's not. I'm not going to say that our government has a right pre-birth to step in and make the decision for the woman. But anyway, that's our group. Our group is a state church group, and we won't comment on it unless the government is sticking its nose into somebody's private life for religious reasons.
But you would say, like, just yourself morally, you wouldn't believe it's a moral decision to have an abortion for the three criterias I laid out, but you would still be okay with her making the decision.
I'm sorry, my phone just rang and I had to switch off here.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
okay. I was just asking. So what you were saying was that for moral reasons, you wouldn't be against her having an abortion for the three reasons I laid out, but you're also saying that you are okay with her having it because it's her choice.
Well, yeah, I think it's basically her choice. It's not a born person, and I think even the strongest feminist is going to feel comfortable with very late term abortions. But we're talking about most abortions happening as long as we can admit that there is a line beneath which we can all agree that, yeah, this is not killing. I mean, in the first trimester, it's not killing, it's not murder. And if we can agree with that, at least then we can argue about the finer points about, well, where and when and how and what and what conditions. In any event, it's not my decision. I'm not the pregnant person. I'm not the person. I was on the board for a while of the Women's Medical Fund that helps poor women pay for abortions, and the screeners were all women to talk to these women. But once in a while, the call was in Spanish, and since I was the only one who knows Spanish, I would take these calls. And I spoke with she was like a 19-year-old woman in Milwaukee. Um, she was nervous because she thought we might report her for not being legal, and she had three children, and her husband was in jail, and she was living in her mother's apartment with these three children, and her mother was about to be evicted. And she was a black woman, and she said, nobody cares about us here. And she said, I'm pregnant and I can't have another child. I love my three kids, and there's just no way I'm having trouble making a living here. And so we sent the money to help her to have that abortion, which I think was a positive moral thing to do. It was her choice. We didn't tell her yes or no. We didn't get into her private life. And I feel really bad. I don't know what happened with her. I don't feel bad about her abortion. I think the abortion was a great thing for her. It was a good thing for her because of her commitment and her love to the three children that she has and the desperate position she was in. And I would denounce somebody who would step in and tell her that must be forced to become a mother again against her will. I think that would be a grossly immoral thing to tell that woman.
I actually think in that situation, a lot of women would have the baby if they had better circumstances. If there's a little bit more financial security, if they knew about the programs and things out there to help women. So I'm of the other approach. I wouldn't pay for the abortion, but I would help pay for food and help get housing and show you how to get your electric bill paid, and I would go a completely different route.
Well, okay, but that woman is just one of thousands in Milwaukee alone. And are you going to come up with a vast public program to go into those inner cities and those poor homes and start distributing and buying homes for them? Or are you going to be able to do that until our government does something like that? And even if they did, I still think it's her choice. It would be nice of you to offer her that help as a Christian or as an atheist, either way. In fact, we do that. We're helping a homeless woman right now who was almost going to freeze to death living in her car. And she's a believer. She's a churchgoer, and she doesn't care that we're atheists. We care that we're helping her. But still, ultimately, she has to live her own life and make her own choices. And so, yeah, it's good, James, if you can do that. If you've got the money, if you or your church or your people have care enough about that family to go in and do that, well, then do that,
Yeah,
and then
I
give
don't
her the choice.
personally have the money, but I've looked into local resources, so I know how to put people in contact with things. Like we have a local program called Heartbeats, and they help with women who are pregnant, and they even help with another need, which is after abortion care, which is that no woman does jumping jacks to the abortion clinic. Like no one is like excited or high fiving walking in, but they struggle tremendously with that decision after. Like I know there's those silly shirts that says I've had 9 abortions and I'm proud of every one, but those are like nutty people. Your normal people are not excited about that decision. So we try to help at all levels locally.
I don't know. You're probably right. There are some nutty people like that, but one of my daughters, who's a church-going Christian, she had an abortion, and then she went on to have another son, have a baby, my grandson. She doesn't regret it. She doesn't have nightmares. She's at her that stage of her life. It was the right thing for her to do, and she did it. And she doesn't have regrets. And I think most women are just relieved, at least the ones we talk to, that pressure is off them. They didn't want to be pregnant in the first place, and sometimes it's a result of rape, and they feel like their whole life has been bullied, and they have it, and then they can hear from us and we can offer to help them. They're really happy about it. Of course, it's kind of scary going into any medical place. I mean, that's kind of weird, but most abortions are pretty simple and clean and easy and safe. So but
Yeah,
I
I
admire your heart to trying to help
no,
people.
thank you.
I'm glad there are people that you're trying to help a real life person in a real world. Ultimately, I think you're trying to help that woman, not necessarily the fetus, but they're trying to help the woman
Well,
with her
in the
situation.
case, I'm trying to help both. I'm trying to help the woman, and I'm trying to help the aborted woman. I'm trying to to get both into care so that they don't have to make this decision. Because my experience with women who have had abortion have been like the complete opposite. I don't know. I've never like ran into a woman who didn't have like mixed or deep, painful feelings going as a result of an abortion. So it's just like a
How
strange
many do you know?
phenomenon.
How many women like that have you met? Probably a
Uh,
half dozen.
with the heartbeats program that we do, I've talked to quite a bit. One person's story I'll share. I never name drop. She had had an abortion. She thought it was the right thing, and then later on, she was medically not able to have children. And so for her, she spent years after that, this child was her one chance at having a child of her own.
Yeah, I can understand that. That would be kind of sad, but that was her decision at the time. And I think she was free to make the decision, and even if she regrets it later, it was her choice. It wasn't the government forcing her to do something. So, but you know, James, that Christians disagree on the issue. There are even Catholics. There's a group called Catholics for Choice that are raising money. My wife Annie Laurie was invited to speak at a Catholic church a couple of years ago, and the church was packed, and the priest was really surprised because the church was packed to somebody to hear an atheist. And afterwards, one of the parishioners came up to her, a church-going Catholic, and handed her an envelope. And she said, "Don't tell anybody who I am, but this envelope, I want you to use it to help the Women's Medical Fund, poor women pay for abortions." And there was $500 cash in the envelope. We don't know the woman's name. She was a Catholic. And so she probably has churchgoers next to her in the pew who disagree with her. And you know that believers don't agree with each other on this issue. So it's a free country, and we should argue, we should disagree, we should do what we can, but I don't think the government should force the argument. I think in the society we live, the the primary thing here is that woman herself, her life situation, her decisions, and if she chooses an abortion like my Christian daughter did, she's free to feel bad or free to feel good about it. Everybody's different.
But we've hit this topic for quite a bit. I definitely don't want to like bore anybody down in the audience because I'm sure they've heard this discussion a million times. I'm like I can debate this subject really well, but I don't like to debate the subject because it's such an emotionally charged subject that I think needs care. And sometimes when you debate it, there's no heart in it.
Well, this is your room, so you can talk what you want.
Oh, you're good. If anyone else wants to raise their hand, we can talk about the room title. I appreciate you chatting with me for a little bit, Dan. I know you're not feeling well.
I got to go in a few minutes here.
Oh, you're okay. I get it.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint. Ride or die.